Hello, hello, everyone, and this is Marina Crispy from Heal Your Heart, Heal Your Body with episode 4. Now, today's podcast is just going to be a little different than the rest. There's no plan, there's no script, there's no bullet points. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants on this one because when I was in the Word, I kept feeling it and being tugged, and it was in my heart to have this conversation. And most of us don't like to talk about this subject, or we don't know how to move forward from when this happens in our life, and that is suicide. When we lose a loved one, a close friend, or someone in our life to suicide, we're angry, we're sad, we grieve. There's so many emotions are going on within us that we don't know how to move forward. And then there's the whole religion part of it. And I know for myself and my family that when we lost our loved one to suicide, we were taught and raised in church and in Catholic schools that you're going to go to hell in a handbag really fast if you take your own life. That is so far from the truth, my friends. I just want to make this clear. It's so far from the truth. God is a loving God. God is a comforting God. God is a forgiving God. So if your loved one had faith in Jesus Christ, even though they made the most difficult and probably the biggest mistake of their life, He will forgive them. He knows their heart. He knows their heart better than they know their heart. He knows their heart better than you know their heart, and He knows their heart better than anyone. He knitted us together in our mother's wombs. He knows every hair on our head. He knows everything about us. So you're probably saying, Marina, is it fair? Why did they do it? They're so selfish. I know, I was there. I'm raising my hand to that. Were they selfish? Or are we selfish? Something to think about, huh? Because we don't know what was going on inside of them at that moment in time where they felt like they couldn't go that much further. Not even one more hour, minute, or second further. We weren't walking their walk. We weren't inside them. We might have known they were struggling, but we didn't know how bad or what they were struggling with. So we need to check in. We need to get connected. We need to be a part of others' lives. With these cell phones and internet and messenger and social media, we sort of forget about the actual connection to one another. Conversation, the hug, the laughter, the bond that we create by being next to one another or on the phone, actually speaking to one another. You can get more of a feeling of how someone's doing when you hear them on the other end of a phone conversation, or if you're sitting next to them. Now, in my case, my mother-in-law took her life 5 years ago. Never thought in a million years she would do it. I know she struggled. She had certain times where she struggled more and more with depression and anxiety and OCD, and it could be the littlest thing to trigger it, depending on where she is at that point in her life. Now, the trigger of this episode was age spots. Mid-70s, starting to get age spots. She loves her garden. She loves to be out in the sun. So naturally, they're going to show up. So I took her from doctor to doctor, dermatologist, psychologist, her GP, anybody I could take her to, I took her to. They all said, "Ma'am, it's age spots. You're going to get age spots. You're in your mid 70s. For her at that point in time, it didn't matter if you told her that God himself had age spots. She was not going to be able to handle it. So Easter came along and I called and I said, okay, we're going to pick you up. You're going to come have dinner. She said, no, not today. I can't come. I said, why can't you come? Because previously, probably 4 to 5 days before Easter, my mom and I went over and celebrated her birthday with her. And this is funny. So my mom and my mother-in-law are 1 year apart, and they're talking about age spots, and before you know it, this one's showing her this age spot and that age spot. And now I'm sitting in the kitchen with two women in their mid-70s and nothing but bra and underwear, showing each other their age spots. Yes, friends, it was a sight to see. We were laughing, we were giggling, we were joking. So I thought, maybe this was really good for her. So Easter came along, coming to pick you up. We're going to have dinner. We're going to share some time. And she said, no, I can't come. My son can't see me like this. I look like a monster. Now, let me share with you, she hadn't let him see her in weeks because she couldn't see him looking like a monster because of age spots. Now she was picking the age spots. She was narrowing her face. So it was just going from one thing to the next. So I said, okay, after consulting with her sisters in Italy and England, I said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to come get you. We're going to go to the doctor and you're going to stay with us until you're feeling better. Okay, she said, you come get me tomorrow. Will you be in the morning or will you be in the afternoon? I said, well, after I get out of work, I'll give you a phone call and I'll come get you. Okay. So I go to get her and I have my husband's pickup truck because my car was in the shop and we load everything in between us. And I really noticed that she was not herself. So I said to her, listen, we're going to drive through the pharmacy, pick up your face cream, and then we'll go home. And last stop, I will run into the corner store, grab some half and half for coffee. We'll get our jammies on. We'll get all situated, and we'll spend the rest of the evening at home. And then we're going to get you better. And she said, okay, Marina. We do what you say. Okay. So I parked right in front of the corner store. I wasn't in there 5 minutes. I ran in, ran out, had the half and half. And I had noticed when I got back into the truck that she had the passenger door open. She had some orange soda on her shirt. And if anybody knows my mother-in-law, she's meticulous wherever she goes, even to the garden. So there was orange soda on her shirt. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, oh, I was having a little soda and I spilt it on the side. She said, but it's okay. I'll clean it up. And then she's crunching and I'm like, are you eating something? And she goes, yeah, I had a sweet. Now, my mother-in-law always had hard candies in her bag, in her house, little bowls of candies. My kids loved going to Nona's house because they were going to get their candy fixed because Nona always had candy. So I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, she always has hard candy. That's nothing new. So as we're driving out and we're maybe less than a quarter of a mile from my home, she reaches in her purse and pulls out a Gatorade bottle that has orange soda in it. And she starts chugging the soda. And I can see these white things dropping one by one into her mouth. And she's chewing and swallowing. And it dawned on me what was going on. So I'm driving, not wanting to crash, reaching over to try to grab the bottle, telling her to please stop, don't do it. And I have all of her belongings for the week or two in between us. So I just said, drive to the house. It's too far to drive anywhere else, and we'll call 911 when we get there. We get in the driveway. She says to me in the car, thank you for everything you do. I'm so happy that you and I are friends and I love you. What? Something's going on here. Something is going on. I get out of the truck. I go inside and I say to my husband, something happened in the car. Your mom drank some soda. It looked like pills were in there, and I'm going on and on. And she comes in behind me. She goes right to the sink. She cleans her sweater, cleans her purse, rinses out not one, but 2 bottles of Gatorade, puts them in the garbage. And my husband's going, Mom, did you do something? Mom, was something happen in the car? Mom, Marina thinks something happened in the car. No, everything's okay, and I love you. And she gives him a hug. She walks down into her room where all her belongings are, sits on the bed. I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, you got to come over here. Something happens. Now, my mom's only across the driveway. She comes running over. In the midst of my mom coming across the street, me getting on 911, my mother-in-law's out. My mom gets her to breathe again. Paramedics come into the house. They're working on her. Detectives are questioning me. And that's the story. Now, even if the doctor gave her medication, was it going to change her mind in that moment? I have no idea. So when you're a loved one, as much as you did for them, and as much as you tried to help them, as much as you didn't want to leave their side, as much as you wanted to be that person to save them, could you have? You know, in my heart, I believe that 98% of the time, they really don't want to die. I believe that in that moment, they just can't do it anymore. They can't listen to the racing thoughts. They can't listen to the nagging inside of them. They can't deal with what's going on in front of them at that moment. They just can't do it. So in that moment, they think it's the only way. When we know it's not. But they can't see past anything else. So we call them selfish. We get angry at them. We get angry at God. Some days we don't want to get up out of bed in the morning. We don't want to go to work. We don't want to go with our friends. We don't want to do anything. But we fail to remember they're free now. They're free of those racing thoughts. They have a whole new body. They have a whole new everything, a whole new outlook on life because they're in heaven. And I always find it funny when people pass away. Well, when so-and-so was here, or they still are. Just our flesh died. Our spirit is still around. They still have a spirit. Our spirit lives on forever and ever and ever. They're still here. It's just their flesh, just their body. That's just our container to hold our spirit, our true self. Then we get angry at God. God, why did you let him do that? And God, why did you do that? Why my family? Why? See, we are given free will to make decisions on our own, regardless if we're in the right frame of mind to make the decision. The only thing that God can do at that point when they make a choice that is in agreement with his is when he looks at their heart. He looks at who they are. He looks at the legacy they left behind. He looks at who is in their spirit self. He doesn't look at how heavy they were, how much money they had. He doesn't care about that. What he cares about is who they were. Who were they when they walked with him? Because he lives in us and we live in him. So that's what he looks at. That's what he takes in consideration. Look at all the disciples, all who he took with him. He worked with a prostitute. He worked with the tax collector. Nobody was ever perfect. but he still loved them. He forgave them. I grew up, God was a punisher. Don't do that wrong, Marina, you're going to get punished. Don't do that, Marina, you're going to get punished. We never heard what a loving, compassionate, guiding father that he is, right? So, God sent me to have this conversation with you. Because once we heal from our own afflictions, he gives us the ability to help somebody else. So I've healed from it. Am I going to ever forget it? I will remember every second like a movie projector in my mind of what happened on that day. And that day happened to be April 1st, April Fool's Day. It was no joke. It was no joke. Not one of my favorite days to begin with. And it's not one of my favorite days now. But he gave it to me. So in my healing and in my lessons and in my testimony, when I talk with somebody else or when I work with a client or when I work with somebody and they have lost someone, a husband, a wife, a loved one, a brother, a sister, a cousin, a friend of a friend, even though you know them, it affects all of us. It affects all of us. So when he helped heal my anger towards myself, my anger towards her, because why in God's name would she do that with me next to her? Driving a car. Did she want me to save her? I tried and she wouldn't let me. She didn't want to go alone? I'm not really sure on why it happened that way. And it's okay. It happened that way. It's all right. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not frustrated with her any longer. I'm okay. Ask me a little while ago, I probably would have told you that I was pissed. How dare she? What was she thinking? You know, it's probably the same thoughts that you all were thinking when your loved one took their life. How come you left us? And it's all right. It's really okay for you to have those feelings, but it's better when you forgive. Forgive yourself because you couldn't change it if you tried. If you sat with them all day and held their hand all day long, mark my words, they're going to do it another day if they want to bad enough. So, my healing is going to help somebody else's healing. It's going to help a client. It's going to help somebody I might bump into on the road, with the market, anybody. But we have to remember something. That God says, and everybody says, God, why did you do this to me? Why did you do this to me? Me talking to you about this is not going to bring your family member back. You forgiving them is not going to bring your family member back. But you healing from it is going to allow you to appreciate, remember, celebrate, and remember them for who they were, not for what they did. You're going to continue to love them like if they were standing right in front of you. That's the blessing of healing. It gives you compassion for yourself, for them. Now, we all have different feelings wrapped around the loss of someone. My husband was silent. My husband didn't mourn for years. My husband didn't talk about her, didn't talk about things, period. He was just, that's it. He was so angry. I beat myself up more than I was mad at her. I beat myself up. My sons dealt with it a different way. Now you have more people in the household that are all dealing with it in a different way. And we need to have compassion with ourselves and compassion with them, because we're all fighting a battle inside, but we all fight it a different way. So when God was speaking to me and talking to me and helping me heal from this, he was giving me scriptures and he was telling me different things on how I was going to help. And in 2 Corinthians 1:3-4, God comforts us in all our afflictions, so that when we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. So, he comforted me through what I was dealing with, what I was feeling. I comforted my husband without him knowing. When he was sleeping at night, I would put my hand on his back and I would pray. And then a couple years down the road, he was like, why do you do that every night? And I said, because I'm praying over you. I'm praying for your comfort. I'm praying for your forgiveness. I'm praying that you release your anger. And I'm praying that you will love your mother no matter what her choice was. Love her like if she was here today. And I would put my hand on his back. Now, he's mourned her. Now, he can speak of her. Now, he can share his story with somebody else. And his story, his testimony, is able to help somebody else who's walking through it at this moment in time. So this is why God gives us certain things in our life. So when we're healed from it and when we're better and we're taken care of, he gives us all the tools to be able to do that for someone else, be it another family member, a friend, somebody you meet at the market. It doesn't matter. You're taking your testimony, what you learned, how you healed, and you're imparting it on somebody else and helping them out so they can get the healing they need. They can get the love that they need, and they can move on and have a fulfilled life. Because our loved ones do not want us depressed, mourning, miserable. They already live that. As God gave us Jesus to die on the cross, he already did that. Now we're supposed to live in that glory, live in his glory, live in forgiveness, live in gratefulness, because he gave his begotten son. Your family member, your loved one already suffered all of that. They don't want you suffering it. They suffered it already. They want you to be happy. They want you to be having a fulfilled life. They want you following all the dreams that you have. They don't want you laying in bed. They don't want you skipping the Pampered Chef party. They don't want you doing this. They don't want you doing that. So, friends, forgive. Love them anyway. Love them as they're standing in front of you, because they're with you all the time. Just their flesh went away. And I know sometimes that's hard to wrap our minds around because we can't physically see them. But mark my words, there's some days that you can smell them right next by. There's something that reminds you of them so much you feel like that you could just call them. You don't have to call them, you could just start talking to them. Because somebody passed by their own choice does not mean they still cannot be loved. Does not mean that they have to be criticized, that they have to be talked about in a negative way. Talk about them as if they were still standing here in front of you. Now, if it was your husband or your wife, You're going to have to forgive them, my friend. You're going to have to forgive them so you can move on to the next part of your life. That person may be in cahoots with God up in heaven, finding you a person that's going to love you like no other. But you cannot find that person until you heal your heart and open yourself up for love again. So you have to heal. You have to heal from it. And I mean truly heal, where that heart is free, where you can say, I love you, and thank you. Thank you for the time you gave me. Thank the time that you spent with me. Thank you for all of this. And now you appreciate them for where they were and what you have. Because you cannot move on to another person until you heal that heart of yours. And you're open to receive love. One, it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to you because you're still thinking about the other one. It happens. It happens because I work with a lot of people, and some of the people I know who have lost a loved one, or a husband or a wife, they're like, how am I ever going to meet somebody else again? How am I ever going to love somebody else again? Well, your loved one did not take their life, so you'll sit there and never love again. They want you to love again. They want you to heal. They want you to love them, but you're going to love them in a different way. So you can move forward and have somebody love you just as much. They probably, in all likelihood, wanted to love you as much as that, but at that moment in time, they couldn't because they were so messed up inside, dealing with whatever they were dealing with, that they couldn't. So now they're saying, go, heal, open yourself up for that next person.